I uploaded a video a couple weeks ago where I gave you guys my 5 bold predictions for the 2026 NBA season, and you guys really enjoyed that video, so I wanted to really just talk about every single NBA team. So I went to Twitter and I asked you guys, give me a bold prediction for your favorite team next season. So today we're going through all 30 teams, and I'm going to be reacting to your guys' 30 bold predictions for each NBA squad. And if you want to be featured in the next one of these, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that is in the description below. So before we get back into today's video, I'm really excited to say that this video is sponsored by Vuori. And I've been wearing Vuori clothing for a while now, so that made me really excited when I got to partner with them here for today's video. And I even wore Vuori pants when I proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance, a couple months ago. That's how much I love their clothing. And my favorite part, I could wear Vuori wherever I'm going. It could be a casual event, it could be a formal event, I could be at the gym, I could be walking my dog, it doesn't matter. I have so many different options and flexibility with Vuori clothing. It could be their core shorts, their meta pants, their ponto joggers, their Stratotech t-shirts and polos, or maybe it's a pullover hoodie as well. There's just so many different options that could give you comfortable clothing that could just make you look good, feel good throughout your day-to-day life. And it could also be a hat or sock accessory as well. I really enjoy wearing these Stratotech tees throughout my day-to-day life. That's what I'm wearing right now. And I can't recommend Vuori enough, no matter where you're going throughout your day. The link to Vuori will be in the description and pinned comment below. And thank you again to Vuori for sponsoring today's video. All right, so let's start off our bold predictions with one from Jim here. And he talks about the Philadelphia 76ers, saying that they will have the first pick in the 2026 NBA draft. And I feel like it's going to be impossible to predict the 76ers season outlook once again going into this year, just because of the main factor of injuries. What's going to be the health of Joel Embiid? What's going to be the health of Paul George? The moment I'm recording this, Quentin Grimes has not re-signed in Philadelphia, although I am expecting him to be back in Philly next season. You have Tyrese Maxey, still can play at an all-star caliber level. The number 3 overall pick is entering the fold in VJ Edgecombe. Jared McCain can hopefully be healthy at the start of the season. And this could be a team in a weaker Eastern Conference that can most definitely make the play-in tournament or even the playoffs. And they can go 45-37 and get a 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, but it could all come crumbling down again, and they could end up being in the lottery. Once again, their first round pick will be owed to the Oklahoma City Thunder if it's outside the top 4. So I'm sure Daryl Morey, Josh Harris, Nick Nurse, none of them want Philadelphia to be in consideration for the first pick in the 2026 draft. But if they are, then it's time to finally cut bait with Paul George and Joel Embiid next offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sixers miss the playoffs entirely, that Paul George is waived and stretched next offseason like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard were this offseason. I could see this happening, like saying they're going to have the first pick implies that they're going to win the lottery as well. I can't say that will happen. I could definitely see them, though, being in lottery consideration, especially if you don't believe in Joel Embiid and Paul George's health next year. For the Portland Trailblazers, Malcolm talks about that they are going to make the playoffs. We were 3 games out of the play-in and have a good improving young core. Dame being back brings a culture and a mentorship to the young guys on the team. Scoot will have more opportunity with the ball with Simmons exiting to Boston. Man, it is really tough, and it is a bold prediction, so I'll give them that. I just can't really map out the Portland Trailblazers making the playoffs right now. Last year, they were a very competitive team in the second half. They still finished with a negative point differential, but they went 36-46, their best record in a few seasons. Definitely their best team in the post-Damian Lillard era. Yes, Dame will be somewhat of a mentor off the floor, but he's not going to be playing for them on the floor till 2027. You bring in Drew Holiday, who will definitely be a more impactful player on defense than somebody like Anthony Simons, but the season will go as far as the development of Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe can take them. I know that Denny Avdia can take a leap this year. I know that Toumani Camara can replicate what he did last year. But can Shaedon Sharpe be healthy this season and be a consistent shot creator, initiator, playmaker in the half court, and be somebody that can give you 20 points on good efficiency most nights? Can Scoot Henderson take strides as a pick and roll ball handler, someone that could read the floor very well and could just get his teammates involved at a very high level for somebody that was drafted with the 3rd overall pick back in the 2023 draft? There's definitely some factors that need to go Portland's way. I could see them in the play-in tournament, but I can't see them as a top 6 seed at the end of the regular season. Now, maybe some teams they played in the play-in tournament could be injured, and that's how they sneak in as a 7 or an 8 seed. I like the bold prediction, though. It's a bold one. It's not a popular one. For the Milwaukee Bucks, this person mentions that Giannis carries the Bucks to a top 3 seed and wins his first MVP since 2020. It's funny that this is considered a bold prediction because, yeah, Giannis hasn't won an MVP in basically 5 NBA seasons. It's gone to Jokic, it's gone to Shea, it's gone to Joel Embiid. But Giannis has basically been putting up 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists over the last 5 years, while also being the best defender in the MVP conversations. He's a better defender than Shea, than Jokic, than Luka over the last few years, but he's finished third or fourth in MVP every year since winning it all in 2020. And if Milwaukee could win 50 games this year, I could definitely see Giannis getting MVP consideration at the top, just because last year, Jokic and the Nuggets won 50 games. Now it's tough because the Thunder won 68. So if that happens again, it's not going to be in their favor, and maybe that Giannis and the Bucks would need to win 55 games to be in that consideration, but Giannis will definitely have the stat line. He'll definitely have the agenda behind him, just because I think people will appreciate him playing at another high level in Milwaukee and not getting traded this offseason. So if everything goes their way, especially with no Damian Lillard on their team, and the Bucks are a top 3 seed in the East, it's a very good record, it's a good defense, and he's getting his 30, 12, and 6 this season, I could see this happening. EDR mentions here for the Chicago Bulls that Montas Buzelis will be an all-star in year number 2. Lots of injuries in the East, and Montas will have loads of opportunities, just like the end of last year's season. I do believe that Montas Buzelis will be an all-star at one point in his career next year. I mean, it is a bold prediction for a reason. He's somebody that didn't really get too much opportunity in the first half. Zach LaVine was still on this team, and before the All-Star break, he essentially averaged 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 15 minutes a night in 53 games. But after the All-Star break in 27 games, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists in 27 minutes a night. I like what he has to offer on the defensive end of the floor. He looked great in the Summer League, in my opinion, working on things in the half court, getting to his spots, creating his own separation. In my opinion, something he struggled with coming out of the G League Ignite. But last year, he definitely looked calm, cool, and collective as a rookie, has great athleticism and great ball handling ability for somebody at 6'10". Now, he would need to average close to 20 points per game to be considered an all-star. And yes, the Eastern Conference is weaker, but you'd expect the Knicks, the Cavs to have at least 2 all-stars in the fold. You could see Siakam making it, Jaylen Brown, Giannis, Cade, Paolo, Bam Adebayo, or Tyler Hero, Trae Young. There's a lot of guys that are going to be in conversation to make the all-star game next year. It would be tough for Montas Buzelis, but hey, it's not completely out of the equation if he ends up being the second leading scorer on this team after Kobe White. He'd have to lead Nikola Vucevic. He'd have to really take strides in year number 2 for somebody that is still 20 years old. But like I said, it's not impossible to happen. Aaron mentions here that the Cavs will fold and a big trade will happen before the deadline. This is definitely a hot take, as last year around the deadline, the Cavs were one of the best teams in the NBA and the best team in the Eastern Conference. They went out and they acquired DeAndre Hunter at the deadline, who I thought fit like a glove in the second half of the year. And unfortunately for Hunter, Garland, and Mobley, they were banged up in round number 2 against the Pacers, and they had an early exit yet again. Donovan Mitchell has never made it to a conference finals in his career, and this team is one of the most expensive teams in the league next season, a deep luxury tax team, a deep second apron team, so they really need to show that this team can go all the way, or it's going to be teared down very quickly, because we know how owners like to operate with the new CBA. I just can't see the Cavs struggling in the first half. Now, I know Darius Garland might be banged up to start off the year, same with Max Strus, and those can definitely be factors for the Cavs to get off to somewhat of a slower start, but I still feel like their slow start will be like 20-12. It's still going to be a good record. They have a top 15, top 10 guy on their team in Donovan Mitchell, who was on an All-NBA first team last year. Evan Mobley's the reigning depoy. Jared Allen is still a rock-solid center, and they still have some good wings like DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, and a guard Lonzo Ball. I think it probably won't be the same success they had last year, winning 64 games. The Eastern Conference should be a little bit better, at least in the middle of the pack, just because I know Boston and Indiana will be worse, but you could definitely see teams like Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, and Toronto all being better. I mean, saying that they're going to make a big trade at the deadline implies that they could move Garland, which was on the table this offseason, or Jared Allen. It's definitely a possibility. I would say it's more likely Allen got moved than Darius Garland. I don't see this happening, but hey, crazier things have happened before. It definitely could. Gerd mentions here for the Boston Celtics that Peyton Pritchard is going to average over 20 points per game, and he's going to average more than Derek White and Anthony Simons, and ends up as a top 3 finalist for the Most Improved Player Award. Now, last year, Peyton Pritchard, with Jason Tatum in the fold, Kristaps Porzingis, and Drew Holiday, averaged 14 points in 80 minutes a night. He was one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA, took about 8 a night, and shot 40% from 3. He ended up winning 6th Man of the Year, and is so crafty with the ball in his hands. He's honestly one of the more underrated ball handlers in the NBA, in my opinion. He's 27 years old, and he's still playing on one of the best contracts, maybe the best contract in the NBA, making $7 million this year, and then he'll eventually make $8 million in 2 years from now in 2028. Now, this guy's prediction says that he's going to average over 20 points per game, so that would be a 6-point per game increase, which he's going to have the opportunity to do so. Last year, he took around 11 shots. With Tatum out, with Drew gone, with KP gone, he could definitely get around 13, 14 shots a night, which is going to be a massive increase and double his shots per game that he had in 2024. But he's also going to be guarded by better defenders. There's going to be more focus on him on the other end of the floor. And they may need him to step up as like a traditional point guard because Anthony Simons and Derek White really aren't those main initiators at times. So maybe he's going to be more of a pass-first point guard at times than somebody that is going to have the constant green light from downtown. I think he could average more than Derek White. I would be a little bit shocked if he averaged more than Anthony Simons, and I would also be shocked if he averaged more than 20 points per game. But I could see him getting around that 18 mark and definitely finish as a finalist for a Most Improved Player award. There's probably a big reason why he's up there in the preseason odds. Tobias Barkley mentions, I guess this is if Tobias Harris and Charles Barkley had a kid, that the Clippers will finish top 3 in the Western Conference next season. Now, going into the year, there's definitely going to be a gauntlet at the top of the West after OKC. You could probably pencil in OKC to get over 50 to 55 wins next year, given that they won 68 last year. They're bringing back everybody, bringing in Nikola Topic and Thomas Sorber. And Chet Holmgren missed a lot of time last year. Hartenstein and Caruso missed some time as well. But after them, it's going to be a dogfight between Houston, the LA teams, Denver, Minnesota, maybe Golden State, and then who knows about San Antonio and Dallas. They're at the top of the Western Conference. Last year, the Clippers were the 5 seed. They were basically tied for the 3 seed, though, and they were 2 games back of the 2 seed. And you can make the argument they got better this offseason. Last year, they finished on a 8-game winning streak, 9-1 in their last 10. Then they go out and replace basically Norman Powell with Bradley Beal. They add in John Collins, Brooke Lopez, Chris Paul, and Yannick Niederhauser. Like I said, I think the Clippers got better this offseason. It's just, yes, they got older. This is like the oldest team in the NBA. I like OKC to be the 1 seed. And then I think it's going to end up being Houston and Denver as the 2 and the 3 seed. But I'm all over LA as the 4 seed next year. So I slight disagree here. But yeah, they could definitely be a top 3 seed in the West, given that they won 50 games last year and Kawhi Leonard missed basically half the season. GG Jackson fan mentions that GG Jackson is going to end up being the Grizzlies' 3rd leading scorer this year. And I could definitely see this happening. It is a bold prediction for sure. And he wouldn't be like an odds-on favorite because you're going to have Ja Morant at the top, Jaren Jackson Jr. at the number 2 spot. And could it be somebody like a Jalen Wells, a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a Santi Aldama as the number 3 scorer? But I'm all in on GG Jackson having a bounce back year in your number 3. He was prone to the sophomore slump, but he had a foot injury to start off his year, so it eliminated his training camp, his preseason, and the Grizzlies were so different in 2025 than they were in 2024, because 2024, GG had so much opportunity given that the Grizzlies were the most injured team in the NBA. And then last year, they had all those guys back, basically. He ended up going from somebody that was like a 6th man when he came in to somebody that was like an 8th, 9th, 10th man last year at times and was struggling to get acclimated after the injury. But now having a full off season, another year under his belt, he's going to be 21 years old in December. He's still just 20. He was like one of the youngest players in that 2023 draft class. He could definitely have a bounce back year and average close to 14 points per game like he did in his rookie season. So I agree with GG Jackson fan here, and I think GG Jackson will be the 3rd leading scorer in Memphis in 2026. This person here is all over the Atlanta Hawks in 2026. They mentioned that Trae Young is going to win MVP. The Atlanta Hawks will make a run to the NBA Finals. Jalen Johnson is an all-star for the first time. Zachary Sachet takes a big jump in year number 2. Dyson Daniels DPOY and all defense. So yeah, there's a lot of bold predictions in here. I would say everything is a extreme bold prediction outside of maybe Jalen Johnson first all-star and Reese Sachet big jump. Now, Dyson Daniels could definitely be on an all-defensive team. I expect that to happen. I don't think he's going to win DPOY. Now, we did see Marcus Smart win it a couple years ago, but it does not really go to guards or perimeter defenders. It goes to bigs, like we've seen with Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr., Rudy Gobert, and the expected DPOY this year, Victor Wembanyama. So I'm already penciling in Wemby as the DPOY this year. I don't think Trae Young is going to win MVP. Now, if Trae Young can put up one of his Trae Young type stat lines that we've seen in the past, right, where somebody that can average 28 points and 10 assists, like that is not out of the cards for Trae Young because he's done it before. He just needs to be a little bit better as a shooter, in my opinion. Like, he's had years where he shot 38, 36, 37% from 3, but last year, 41% from the field, 47% on twos and 34% from three. That's objectively an inefficient season for the volume he had, but he was still an incredible playmaker. And if you look deeper into those numbers, there wasn't really anybody that could help out Trae Young in the half court that much, especially when Jalen Johnson went down. But Trae Young could definitely get the counting numbers. He could definitely lead the NBA in assists. The big thing for him getting MVP will be their record. If the Hawks are a surprising 1 seed, because right now they're projected to be around the 4 seed in the East, a lot of people are still predicting Cleveland, New York, and Orlando to be ahead of Atlanta. But if Atlanta wins 58 games and Trae Young puts up a Trae Young level stat line, yeah, he could be in MVP conversation. I don't think they're going to make a run to the NBA Finals this year. I think there's a lot of factors that you can question with Atlanta, with KP's health, with Zachary Sachet still being pretty raw, them having some injury concerns. But hey, it's a wide open Eastern Conference. It's definitely like in the cards. It's not completely out of the realm. I think Sachet will take a jump in year number 2. I'm not sure about a big jump, but I do like Jalen Johnson making an all-star game this year. He looked like an all-star last year before the injury. There could be a spot or two open in the Eastern Conference. I know I was mentioning it before when I was talking about Montas Buzelis being an all-star, but I feel more comfortable about Jalen Johnson being an all-star in 2026 than Montas Buzelis. Zach here mentions for the Miami Heat that Nikola Jovic is the 3rd best player on the team by the end of the season. So he's all in on Nikola Jovic going in to year number 4. He's somebody that's had a pretty impressive Eurobasket so far this summer, and this is a team that obviously no longer has Jimmy Butler. You could say their consensus top 2 guys are Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. So this take is basically saying that Nikola Jovic will be better than Andrew Wiggins and Norman Powell and Khalil Ware here in year number 4. I would say Nikola Jovic has impressed me so far for somebody that has been drafted 27th overall, that was extremely raw coming overseas, and he really took strides in my opinion in year number 2. The counting numbers look better last year, and he ended the season on a good note shooting the ball, but he was injured yet again, right? Like 46 games last year, 46 games in 2024. I feel like this actually isn't talked about a lot, that Nikola Jovic has struggled to stay healthy because he only played 2 games after the All-Star break. So he ended the season on a good shooting note in the games he played, I meant. But yeah, not great for Nikola Jovic, and you really need him to play 60 games, 70 games for somebody that's a power forward, that's a small forward at times. It's not like he's a center that's 7'4" and will always struggle with injuries. So yes, if Nikola Jovic could play 70 games next year, I could see him end up taking a leap. He can average 13, 14 points a night, be more effective than Norman Powell defensively, but I would say he's probably going to be in line as the 4th or 5th best player in Miami, maybe number 6. Who knows? Maybe number 7 if Kasperis Shakuchonis has a good rookie season. Carson Cash mentions for the Charlotte Hornets that they will make the playoffs without the play-in tournament. So a top 6 seed in the East, LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller will be a clear 1A and 1B tandem. The young duo of Tijon Salon and Con Knipple will also stand out. Man, this is a tough prediction for me, just because the Hornets right now are projected to win around 25 games in the 2026 season. Last year, the Detroit Pistons in the East won 44 games and were the 6th seed. So according to Carson's bold prediction, they're going to outperform their preseason win projection by 20 wins. We're going to get a healthy LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller this season. Tijon Salon, who looked extremely raw as a rookie last year, will take a leap this year, and Con Knipple will be NBA ready out of the gate. And I love Con Knipple, and I think he will be NBA ready out of the gate. It's just the other factors. You really need so many things to go their way. And I don't know, the Charlotte Hornets really haven't had these good vibes on their side, and I love this roster. I do think they have, though, maybe the worst center rotation in the NBA. It's going to be really dark at times for them with their rim protection defensively, unless Ryan Kalkbrenner is like him out of the gate. I love Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, and LaMelo Ball. I just need to see LaMelo Ball be healthy. We haven't seen LaMelo Ball play 50 games since 2022. He's only played more than 55 games once in his career, and that was in 2022. He played 51 games as a rookie the year prior in a shortened 2021 season. I love Brandon Miller. I predicted him to be a big breakout player this year as well. He just needs to stay healthy. I love them adding depth this offseason in Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie. Trey Mann will be healthy. Hopefully Grant Williams will be healthy as well. They drafted Lee McNeely, Sion James. This team will have better depth than it's had maybe in the LaMelo Ball era, or at least since 2022. Maybe a low-end playing team, maybe a 10 or a 9 seed. I can't go as high as a 6 seed, even though it's a bold prediction. Elliot's going to mention here for the Utah Jazz that Walker Kessler makes an all-defensive first team, while the Jazz are abysmal. That part isn't bold. Now, I think these two statements are a little bit contradicting of each other, just because Walker Kessler, in my opinion, may be the most underrated big man defender in the NBA. I don't think he got enough credit for how good he was as a rim protector last year for a really bad Utah Jazz team. But that's the issue. Utah last year was the 30th ranked defense in the NBA. So it's going to be tough for Walker Kessler to be a good defender on the worst ranked defense and get national credit for somebody to make an all defensive first team. It's just kind of how it goes, which is unfortunate. It reminds me a little bit about when Victor Wembanyama was going up against Rudy Gobert for the Defensive Player of the Year award in his rookie season when that team won 22 games and they were the 22nd ranked defense. Now, it could definitely happen, though. Making all defensive first team is a lot easier than winning DPOY, and I do think Walker Kessler can be a top 5 defender this year, 100%. The range he has as a rim protector inside, the quickness to adapt and adjust. He can fight off screens very well. He can be very physical in the paint. I love Walker Kessler a ton. It's just, yeah, he's going to be on maybe the worst defense in the league this year. Even though he could be a top 5 defender, I think it's going to be tough for him to make an all defensive first team. Maybe a second team. Guy mentions here for the Kings that he believes it's going to get that bad in Sacramento this year that Vivek Ranadive, the owner, will consider selling the team and we're going back to relocation talks by April. So yeah, this sounds like a little dramatic, right? Just because I don't think the Sacramento Kings are going to relocate anytime soon. This team has been in Sacramento for a decent amount of time, basically 40 years since 1986. But yeah, there is a chance that this season can go horribly wrong. Last year, they fired Mike Brown after a 13-18 start. Doug Christie did go 27-24 over the final 51 games of the year. They went 40-42 with no De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine in the fold, and Domantas Sabonis got hurt late in the year. Their first-round pick, Devin Carter, was banged up and then really struggled when he got healthy in January. And this team basically played 25 different guys last year. It was all over the place. They had great injury luck back in the 2023 season when they ended up making the playoffs. Not as much last year. Yeah, maybe there's a chance that this team ends up winning 36 games. And it's like, all right, these were the Kings before 2023, the Kings we thought we were done with. And we're back to square one. We'll see. I don't think they're going to sell the team, but I could also see this season just going horribly wrong. And yeah, they're in conversations to trade all their top veteran talent. And they're maybe a team that's going to be picking within the top 10. EA Game Day mentions that Jalen Brunson is going to be in the top 3 of the MVP race this season. So I remember I did a bunch of these hot takes about Jalen Brunson last offseason as well, or bold predictions that he could be an MVP candidate. And Jalen Brunson was a good player yet again here. He was a great player in 2025, where he helped the Knicks become a 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. He averaged 26 points, 7 assists on elite efficiency. Like Trae Young probably has better stat numbers, right? Like he averaged 11 assists, led the NBA, but Jalen Brunson was more efficient on 2s, on 3s, and carried the team a little bit better in the East. And I think that would be a fun discussion. Who has a better chance at winning MVP between Trae Young and Jalen Brunson? Because the odds are neither one of them is going to win it next year. It's most likely going to go to Jokic, to Shea, to Giannis, or to Luka, maybe Wemby in 2026. The odds are very, very low. It would go to Trae or Jalen Brunson. But between the two, I think it would be a fun debate just because there are smaller guards that aren't on elite teams right now, but could be very good in the regular season. And Brunson, though, if he replicated what he did in 2024 in terms of scoring, where he can average 29 points a night, and last year with assists around 7 a night, keep up the efficiency, and could play north of 70 games, the Knicks would have to be, in my opinion, the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's what it comes down to, because last year the Cavs won 64 games. If the Knicks somehow won 60 games, I think Brunson could have some say to win MVP. People would definitely knock his defense, although he's not a liability by any means on the defensive end of the floor. I think it would be tough, but going back to Game Day's prediction here of a top 3, it's definitely in the cards. I mean, he was 5th in MVP voting in 2024. Sean Hover says here for the Lakers that, yeah, a lot of things are going to go their way. They're going to win 60 games. Luka's going to win the first MVP of his career. They're only going to lose 1 game the entire playoffs, beat the Knicks in 4 games in the finals. Luka wins finals MVP, and LeBron retires as a champion, and then he put down 2K 2 seconds later. Now, I'm just kidding. I mean, this would be a perfect Lakers season. They could win 60 games. I mean, that's not impossible. They won 50 games last year. Their over-unders around 48. They could definitely overachieve. I don't think the roster got that much better this offseason to net a 12-win change in 2026. Plus, LeBron is going to be 41 years old. Luka could theoretically win MVP. We know he's going to put up the stats. We know he's going to be somebody that's a top 5 player when he's out there. So that is definitely not an extreme bold prediction. Losing 1 game the entire playoffs. Are we serious? Are we serious? The Thunder last year ended up losing 7 games in the playoffs, and they were one of the greatest defenses of all time. And yeah, if the Lakers won the NBA Finals, Luka would be a Finals MVP, and LeBron would retire as a champion. So out of all these, I actually think the best case is probably Luka winning MVP. I don't think the Lakers are winning 60 games and definitely not losing one game the entire playoffs. Benjamin Morrison mentions here for the Orlando Magic that Anthony Black's jumper and handle will fully develop and he will either win Most Improved or Sixth Man of the Year. I also think Noah Penda will get playing time before Jace Richardson, partially due to the guard depth, but also Penda's defensive versatility and health questions with some of the front court. So first off, I agree with the second half of this bold prediction. I do also believe that Noah Penda will get like noticeable playing time before Jace Richardson because yeah, you talk about the guard depth, Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, and Tyus Jones, who they signed this offseason. There really isn't a clear pathway for Jace Richardson to play right away unless an injury happens. He's a little bit smaller as well, so they're not going to have him out there for defense unless they need a boost in shooting, but that's why they got Desmond Bane this offseason. Penda is very physical, stocky, can get low to the ground, can guard multiple positions on the perimeter and in the paint, so I think he could play a little bit more than Jace Richardson right away. So back to the Anthony Black take. I mean, this is what Orlando and their fans have been waiting for. Somebody that was drafted with the 6th overall pick back in the 2023 draft. He was supposed to be the franchise point guard at one point. Then Jalen Suggs kind of broke out. And then you're like, can Black play the 1? Can Suggs play the 2? And then they went out and got Desmond Bane this offseason after getting KCP last offseason. So once again, Anthony Black will not be a starter, something he's only done 43 times out of his 147 games in his career. And they also, need that three-point shot to develop. 39% on about 1.5 three-point attempts in his rookie season. Last year, that would drop to 31%. He shot 42% from the field. But a lot of people struggled with their efficiency in Orlando, given that everybody was kind of hurt. People's roles were all out of sorts, and they were really forcing a lot within the half court. I don't think he's going to win Most Improved or Sixth Man of the Year, but I think he's going to be a really good backup point guard or just backup combo guard in general. Maybe he plays the 3 at times this year if the shot develops, given that he's 6'7", and you can have him out there with Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane as well. The source mentions here for the Dallas Mavericks that Cooper Flag is going to win Rookie of the Year. Don't think that's really a bold prediction. He's the odds-on favorite. Anthony Davis stays healthy all season. Yeah, that's definitely a bold prediction. And the Mavs are the 2 seed. Also another bold prediction. So yeah, if Anthony Davis stays healthy, his third bold prediction that the Mavs are the 2 seed can definitely come true. You just need Anthony Davis to be healthy for a full season, something he was not in 2025 after the trade, but he was before the trade, playing 42 games with the Lakers before February. In 2024, though, it was the healthiest season for him in basically 6 years. He played 76 games for the Lakers in 2024. He was an all-star, 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, All-NBA second team, All-Defensive first team. That's what Dallas needs AD to be if they want to be a top seed in the Western Conference. It's just like I was talking about the Clippers before with them, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Timberwolves, the Lakers, even the Warriors, and obviously the Thunder at the top. It's going to be tough for Dallas to be a top 3 seed in the West. But if Cooper Flag can be him right away, Kyrie comes back a little bit earlier than expected and looks like he did before the injury, and AD can stay healthy. You need a lot of factors to go Dallas's way. But if all those come true, yeah, they could be a 2 seed this year. Alejandro mentions here for the Nets that Jaeger Dorman is going to win Rookie of the Year, and Cam Thomas returns to the Nets with an all-star season performance. So I'll talk about Cam Thomas first. I don't think even if he returns to the Nets, he would end up being an all-star, right? This is a bold prediction. He's 23 years old. He averaged 24 points per game last year in just 25 minutes a night. I could actually see this being somewhat of like that Bradley Beal season a couple years ago, because yeah, Cam Thomas could average 27 points per game. But if you remember, Bradley Beal averaged 30 points for the Wizards in 2020 and was not an all-star that season because the Wizards were one of the worst teams in the league. They finished 25-47 that year. They ended up picking top 10 in the draft. So that could be something similar with Cam Thomas in the all-star voting. We got to even see if he's returning to the Nets because it does still feel like him and Sean Marks, the Brooklyn Nets GM, are just far apart in contract negotiations. I kind of like the Jaeger shout just because Jaeger was really good in the Summer League. He was a really bad shooter for BYU last year, but looked the part in Summer League. He looked very good off dribble. Movement shooting looked good. The confidence with the ball in his hands. And he's going to have the opportunity to shine in Brooklyn. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Jaeger had a more stats-driven season than Dylan Harper, just because he's going to play more. He's going to start more. He's going to have more shot opportunities, given how bad the Nets are compared to a team like the San Antonio Spurs. So I could even sprinkle Jaeger. Yeah, winning Rookie of the Year. I still think it's going to be Cooper Flag. And then I'd still like Ace Bailey or Trey Johnson over Jaeger. But I wouldn't be totally shocked if he was on all-rookie first team at the end of the year. I like this one here from CD Lamb's burner that Cam Johnson is going to actually be Jokic's first all-star teammate this season. So yeah, this is basically saying Cam Johnson's going to be an all-star and make it for the first time with Jokic over somebody like a Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., who has never made an all-star game with Jokic. So last year, in a 57 game sample size in Brooklyn, Cam Johnson averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, 47, 39, 89 splits. That's a good season. Is that an all-star season? Maybe in the Eastern Conference on a good team. It would be tough for him to make it in the West with those numbers, because last year Jamal Murray had maybe a little bit down of a first half, but in the 48 games before the All-Star break, he averaged 21 points, 6 assists, and had a true shooting percentage of 57%. Like, it's an overall good season after a slow start, and he wasn't even an All-Star in the West. And yes, some injuries can happen, guys can get in. Cam Johnson really needs to have by far the best year of his career, and I'm talking averaging over 20 points per game, shooting 40% from three, and looking like somebody that is a perfect fit next to Nikola Jokic. It's definitely possible. Cam Johnson has the IQ, the adaptability, and the three-point shooting making to be somebody that could be an all-star next year. But if there was going to be a number 2 all-star in Denver, I still have to bet it's going to be Jamal Murray. Young Simba mentions here for the Indiana Pacers that they are going to miss the play-in tournament next season. Now, their over-under is around like 38 wins, and in order to make the play-in, you just got to be a top 10 seed in the East. And yes, I do think teams like Cleveland, New York, Orlando, and Atlanta will be better, as well as Milwaukee, Detroit, probably Miami as well. And I think Indiana is going to be fighting Toronto, Boston, and Philly for some of the final spots in the play-in. And yes, if there's an injury to Pascal Siakam next year, this team probably won't be a play-in team, because they desperately need Pascal Siakam to carry the load as a number 1 offensive weapon. And maybe Benedict Mathurin or Andrew Nembhard doesn't take a leap next season and everything goes wrong. And they went 50-32 last year. Maybe it flips and they go 32-50, but good thing for them, they got their first round pick back from the Pelicans this offseason. They're projected right now to be around the 9 or the 10th seed, so hey, maybe they lose a couple more games, and Young Simba is right with the bold prediction. Stark Shark mentions here for the Pelicans, speaking of them, that they are a top 6 seed, healthy Zion Williamson, semi-healthy DeJounte Murray when he comes back, and with their depth they have and the spacing, they could put a good team around Zion, and that can do wonders. So going into the season, their over-unders around 31 wins. It's one of the lowest in the Western Conference. Last year, they had so many injuries, and I mean so many. Everybody was injured at one point. Elfrid Payton was starting games for them at the 1, and they won 21 games. So I expect them to be better. This team is way too talented with its individual talent. I just don't know how it's going to be collectively as a team. That's why I was a little hesitant on them last year and skeptical about Brandon Ingram fitting with Zion Williamson, fitting with CJ McCollum, and all these guys with the Misi in the mix, Herb Jones, Trey Murray. There was just too many guys that I think were just going to get thrown out there. DeJounte Murray too, and didn't really have an identity together. That could also happen this year. Murray's not going to come back until at least the calendar year hits 2026. They drafted some raw rookies like Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. Jordan Hawkins really hasn't taken too big of strides so far in his career. You always have the health questions with Zion Williamson, and Jordan Poole is going to be a really good three-point shooter for this team, what they desperately need, but could be a liability at times defensively. It's a great Western Conference. I don't think they're going to be a top 6 seed, but I would not be shocked at all if they were a play-in team next year. Kyle Garrison mentions for Ausar Thompson that he's going to make an all-defensive team this year with the Pistons. I like this take for sure, because Ausar Thompson going into last year was kind of recovering from that blood clot scare he had in his rookie year. He didn't get a proper ramp up to year number 2. He played 59 games with basically no training camp, no preseason, and he still looked the part out there, especially in the second half. And he may be one of the best team defenders already in the sport. He made Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey at times, Cade Cunningham, Ron Howard all look so good defensively because what he could do as a help defender, as a double team defender, as an inside, as a perimeter defender overall. I could definitely see him being on an all defensive team. I think his defense is very close to his twin brother Menz, who was an all defensive first team member last year. Mac mentions here for the Raptors that they are going to secure a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference and have 2 all-stars in Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram's even going to be an all-star starter. So yeah, these are definitely some bold predictions. Ingram being an all-star starter means he would get it over Paolo Banchero, Karl Anthony Towns, or Giannis Antetokounmpo, at least one of those guys. And then you would also have Pascal Siakam, you would have Jaylen Brown, you would have Evan Mobley all into the mix as well, or Joel Embiid if he's healthy next year. I don't think Brandon Ingram will be an all-star starter, although I appreciate the bold prediction. I don't think they're going to have 2 all-stars either, although that is definitely possible in the Eastern Conference. Brandon Ingram has made it to an all-star game in his career. Same with Scotty Barnes, so it's not out of the cards that both of those guys can be all-stars together next year. It's just Brandon Ingram hasn't been doing an all-star game since 2020, but it will be an inferior conference. I have no idea how they're going to fit together within the offense next year. Will they blend well for each other? Will there be some synergy out there, or are they going to struggle at times? But hey, if they are a top 4 seed, that means they got off to a great start. They're going to finish strong, and yeah, that record can show that they deserve 2 all-stars. If I had to guess who's a more likely all-star, I'm going to say Scotty, just because, yes, I could see Ingram averaging more points per game than Scotty, but Scotty will be a better playmaker. playmaker, rebounder, and defender. And I think all those things going together gives him the slight edge of being like a lone Raptors all-star next season. This person mentions for the Houston Rockets that they're going to set a franchise record for wins in the regular season. So their franchise record for wins would be 2018's 65-17 record. We know that they were coached by Mike D'Antoni. They had James Harden, Chris Paul, and they pushed Golden State to a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. One of the best non-finals playoff series we have seen in quite some time, and it was unfortunate that Chris Paul did get hurt in that series. So do we think that the Rockets can win 65 games? They're around 54 wins as their preseason win projection, so they would need to outperform that by 11. They add Kevin Durant, who's no spring chicken. He is going to be 37 years old in September, but Amen Thompson looks like he could break out and could be an All-NBA guy this year. Alperen Sengun has been dominating Eurobasket so far, and maybe he's on his Jokic trajectory right now and could be an All-NBA player this year. They have incredible depth with Fred VanVleet, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., Josh Okogie, Dorian Finney-Smith, two solid backup centers, and Steven Adams, and Clint Capella. Number 3 overall pick, Reed Shepherd's still in the mix as well. This team could definitely win 60 games. Could they win 66? Everything needs to go their way. They can't really withstand too many injuries, and maybe they just have the Nuggets and the Thunder's number throughout the year because they're going to play the Spurs, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, and the Grizzlies a ton this year. It may be the most competitive conference because they don't have like a clear terrible team. It's not like the Northwest that have the Jazz or the Southeast that have the Wizards or the Atlantic that has the Nets. So I would probably say that like the Pacific Division and the Southeast Division, maybe the most competitive top to bottom next year. This person mentions here for the Spurs that they reestablished themselves as a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Wemby is going to win DPOY and top 3 in the MVP race. Now, I believe that Wemby is going to win DPOY next year as long as he plays 65 games. I can agree with that one. And then if he wins DPOY, he could definitely get some top 3 MVP votes. So we're not going to ever know what Wemby's MVP votes would have been last year, given that he only ended up playing 46 games for the San Antonio Spurs, but he was an all-star. He was a block champion. He was averaging 24 points, 11 rebounds, but he was also part of a team that was maybe going to go under 500. That's why I thought last year's Wemby was so fascinating, because say they went 40-42, would Wemby have made All-NBA first team over Donovan Mitchell, given that they could have won 24 less games than the Cleveland Cavaliers? So I do see Wemby getting top 5 MVP votes. We'll see, because you know Jokic is going to be up there. Shea is most likely going to be up there. And will he take a leap over Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo in the MVP race this season? And the Spurs definitely have a chance at going top 4 in the West. They really need to take strides as a 3-point shooting team. They added Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk this offseason for some depth around Wemby. But yeah, they need Fox, Castle, Harper, Vassell, Johnson, so and to at least be positive from outside the 3-point arc. Maybe they make a trade or two at the deadline. It's definitely possible, and I think more likely they're a top 4 seed in the West than their other team in Texas and the Dallas Mavericks. Remy mentions here for the Phoenix Suns that they are going to actually blow it up at the deadline. And I guess they technically blew it up in the offseason where they traded Kevin Durant and they bought out Bradley Beal. So maybe this isn't projecting that the Phoenix Suns are going to trade away Devin Booker this year at the deadline, which would be crazy. But yeah, there's definitely a scenario where they trade away Dylan Brooks, who could be a hot commodity at the deadline because of his switchability and his positive defense. And he's an average 3-point shooter. Grayson Allen could have some value at the deadline. Mark Williams, who's a restricted free agent at the end of the year, could have some value. Nick Richards as well. I just don't really think they're going to move somebody making $53 million at the deadline in Devin Booker, who basically signed a massive extension with them, who's going to make almost $70 million on average in a few years from now when he's in his mid-30s. And if Devin Booker were to get traded, I think that would just probably end up happening in the 2026 offseason. It'd kind of be like Blake Griffin 2.0 when they gave him that massive extension, and then less than a year later, they traded him to Detroit for Tobias Harris. Matthew Lyons mentions here for the OKC Thunder that J-Dub is going to be an all-star starter, and Chet is going to win DPOY. I mean, it could be really tough for J-Dub to be an all-star starter. It depends. Could he be a backcourt guy? Could he be a frontcourt guy? But if you're saying he's a backcourt guy, you probably already have to pencil in Shea and Luka. So he's not making it there, or Anthony Edwards, or Steph Curry, right, as a backcourt starter. And the frontcourt guys, you have LeBron James potentially in his final year, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama in the mix, maybe Anthony Davis if he's healthy, and maybe even Zion Williamson if he's healthy as well. So I think J-Dub will be an all-star this year, and I think has a better chance at making the all-star game over Chet Holmgren. I just don't think he's going to be a starter. Chet winning DPOY is also a very interesting bold prediction because Chet would need to be healthy this year like he was in his rookie season. You'd maybe need to get a little bit of luck that Wemby does not hit 65 games as well, because I feel like it's a more to lock that Wemby will win DPOY if he hits that 65 game threshold. Chet is a fantastic defender though, could definitely be on an all defensive team this year, but I still believe that Mobley will be a better defender Anthony Davis and Bam if they're fully healthy throughout this season, and maybe even Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. Jack Alexander mentions here for the Warriors that there's no bold take. There's no bold prediction. They're going to be a 6th seed at best. Butler's out for a good portion of the season. There is no hope whatsoever. I think we got to check in on Golden State Warriors fans, man. I feel really bad for them right now that Jonathan Kuminga has dictated their offseason. Now they're going to most likely get Al Horford, probably Gary Payton coming back, and Anthony Melton as well. This is going to be one of the last hurrahs with Steph going to be 38 this year. Jimmy's around 36 years old. Draymond around 35. I mentioned how good the Western Conference is, and I know they were great in the second half last year. I just think if all these teams are at full strength, which won't happen, I just don't love their chances at making out of the Western Conference, even making it out of the first round. I just don't think we're getting 2023 playoff Jimmy walking through that door ever again. And unless Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, or somebody like that takes a massive leap next season, yeah, I don't think Golden State's going to be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference either. I think 6th seed at best might actually be 7th or 8th seed at best. This person mentions here for the Washington Wizards that Alex Sarr will make a huge year 2 leap and average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists and 2 blocks on 47, 34, 84 efficiency. That's a crazy bold prediction. And also AJ Johnson will turn heads. I actually kind of want to disagree with both of these, so I'll briefly mention AJ Johnson. There's just too many mouths to feed in Washington right now. And I know CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton can be off this team after the deadline, but if AJ Johnson is turning heads, then that's going to have to sacrifice maybe a little bit of the Bub Carrington touches, maybe the Cam Whitmore touches, maybe Bilal Coulibaly or Keyshawn George or Will Riley. There's just so many mouths to feed here in Washington, and I expect Corey Kispert to maybe be traded, but he's at least going to get a decent amount of playing time. AJ Johnson will make some flashy plays. I just don't think he's going to be somebody you're going to look at the end of the season in his stat line with his production and be like, all right, he's a legitimate franchise building block going forward. And Alex Sarr, I hate to break it to you, he's not averaging those numbers. I don't even think he averages those numbers in NBA 2K in year number 2. Last year, he was one of the worst offensive big men at times. He shot 39% from the field, 30% from 3, 67% from the free throw line, and was terrible around the rim for somebody that was 7 foot tall. Now, hopefully, an offseason fully with the Washington Wizards, their strength and conditioning program, their player development, he will take a leap in year number 2. I'm still super high on Alex Sarr, and I think he can be the best player from that draft class. So that's what I said before that draft, that it will take some time for Sarr, but he will be the best guy from that class. I just don't think he's averaging 20, 10, and 5. I could see more like 15, 8, and 3 next year. But if he gave you 47, 34, 84 efficiency, that would be the biggest step forward for Alex Sarr than you can ask for. And then lastly, comes from Rupert. He mentions that the Wolves will be a top 3 seed this season, having a full season and off season to gel together, just like the second season of having Rudy here. So he's implying more so Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Terrence Shannon Jr. will be the MIP of the year, and Ant will be top 5 in MVP voting. I kind of disagree with all these, and I hate to sound like a Timberwolves hater here. I just like so many other teams in the West. I think they're going to really miss Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'm a little bit worried about Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert's age going into next year's season. And the Timberwolves did struggle at times in the first half last year, but they finished off on a strong note, obviously getting the 6th seed in the Western Conference, winning 49 games. They did finish as a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. I don't think Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to win most improved player. So I would say probably the best prediction that I could be on board with is Ant being top 5 in MVP voting. Who knows? Maybe Anthony Edwards averages 30 points per game this season. Maybe he wins the scoring title. So I hope you guys did enjoy that video. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with. Maybe there's a bold prediction that didn't make the video that you want to let me know for your favorite team. Let me know down below in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.